Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 113 of Crunch Time. I'm going to be your host for today's episode. I am Tanner Dislin, and I am joined, as always, by Sam Godsey, and we are the N326 duo. Sam, how are we doing this week?
Man, I'm doing good. Unfortunately, it's that time of year where football is wrapping up. We're getting just NFL action for the next couple weeks. Um, but that means basketball season is right around the corner. Kind of getting into conference play coming the new year. Some of the best college basketball coming up. NBA kind of gets more serious, even though we had the in-season tournament last week conclude. But
Doesn't get better than the
yeah,
end-season tournament, man.
it's getting as basketball is coming up, I'm definitely excited for it.
For sure. Let me tell you what, though, making an episode outline, it looks a little empty without college football, and that kind of sucks. Obviously, we love all football. College football holds a special place in our heart. So this definitely sucks, but we will push forward with just the NFL on our slate until, as Sam said, more basketball comes and we can talk about some other things. But before we get into all that, the NFL slate and everything we're going to talk about in this episode, we got to start where we always do, winners and losers. Sam, who's your winner?
Yeah, of course, I gotta show love to Iowa's own Caitlin Clark. She became the first player in D1 history, women's and men's, with 3,000 points, 750 rebounds, and 750 assists this past week. She hit the 3,000 mark against in-state rival Iowa State. I was in the building. It was absolutely electric. Felt like a home game for the Hawkeyes with all the love Caitlin Clark was given. And in addition to the 3,000 points, she also signed a huge endorsement deal, NIL deal, whatever you want to call it, with Gatorade, making her like one of three collegiate athletes. I think Shadur has the other one in the um, Penn State running back. I'm blanking on his name. So huge week for Caitlin Clark. Definitely is a face of women's basketball everywhere. So always gotta show love when a Hawk is winning.
Remember a few weeks ago, or a few weeks ago, maybe a few months ago, when like Bleacher Report, someone tweeted the top NIL earners in women's college basketball, and Caitlin Clark was like four.
Yeah.
I think we might need to fact check that. Maybe a little revision there. Bleacher Report. Yeah, she's obviously number one. She's the face of women's basketball, as you said. One of the ways you know that, I mean, did you happen to know off the top of your head when the WNBA draft lottery was?
I did not.
Me neither, but you know how I knew it was going on is because when the number one seed got drafted, everything on X and on Instagram was Caitlin Clark in an Indiana Fever jersey.
Yeah.
That's how I know they got the top pick because she runs the sport. And yeah, if she decides to come out, she is going to be probably an Indiana Fever. So don't know if that's good or bad, but she's really good at basketball. Moral of the story. For my winner, I could have gone a couple different ways here. Um, you know what? I'm gonna talk about both. Why not? But winner number one, as everyone predicted, New York quarterbacks in Week 15 of the NFL. Um, Zach Wilson and Tommy DeVito are your NFC and AFC players of the week. Yes, you heard that correct. The Giants and Jets get two huge wins, and both of those quarterbacks played incredibly well. I still can't believe I am saying that out loud. I think a lot of people thought this was going to be a lost season for the Jets and the Giants, and for the most part, it has been. But Week 15, man, Tommy DeVito and Zach Wilson played out of their minds to earn a Player of the Week honor. So that's definitely worth the shout out. And then, of course, I got to talk about it. My other winner, it's got to be Shohei Ohtani, locking in a $700 million contract. Now, I know the Structure of that contract definitely is up for debate, whether it should be allowed, yada 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 this, yada yada that. So the structure, it's a $700 million contract, and what he gets is it's a 10-year $700 million. And the 10 years that he is playing with the Dodgers, he will get $2 million a year, totaling 20 million of that $700 million contract. Then for the next 10 years after that, he will receive $68 million a year, making up the rest of the 680 million of the $700 million contract. Now that does a couple things. Because it is deferred payments after his service time with the Dodgers, that 68 million will not go towards luxury tax penalties, which obviously pretty big. MLB doesn't have a salary cap; it has a luxury tax. So when you cross it, you can cross it, but when you do, you get penalized pretty hard. So it won't count towards that, and all that will count towards the salary or the luxury tax, excuse me, is $2 million per year for the 10 years he will be with the Dodgers. So, I mean, if you're Shohei Ohtani and you want to win, why not? You're making so much money from all these other endorsements. You're the best player on planet Earth. You can afford to defer that money. Why not, right? And it allows the Dodgers a lot of flexibility in the short term to make their team pretty good. So, anytime you can lock down a $700 million contract, I think that is grounds for you to be the winner. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. It was a crazy contract, for sure. But it seems that we get this story year in, year out that the Dodgers have a amazing amazing off season signing. They're the favorites to win the World Series, and it never happens. It'll be interesting if that happens with Shohei. Has had issues with injuries in the past, specifically the Tommy John, and I believe another injury that's blanking. But yeah, it's ridiculous amount of money. This makes the contracts of Mookie Betts and Shohei their pay larger than what the Marlins are worth, which is absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, he got a huge payday.
Yeah, for sure. And I noticed that in 2024, next year, Shohei Ohtani will be the 17th highest paid Dodger, and obviously the best player on planet Earth. So they got creative. Whether or not they should be allowed, I mean, I'm not going to speak to that. I think what I think they should be commended for their creativity. Let's just say that. If there's no rules to stop it, why the hell not? Will there be rules in the coming weeks, days, years? Probably. But now all eyes go to Yamamoto, the other Japanese phenom coming over from Japan. Pretty much every big market team is in on him. Yankees, Mets, Dodgers, Giants, they all want him. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see where he goes. But that's going to be it for our winners. 3 winners on the day. I just made that decision right there to go with both. Why not? But Sam, who's your loser for the episode?
Yeah, my winner, or my loser, pardon me, is going to be kind of a throwback to a couple of years ago, and that is going to be Jaden Daniels, Arizona State teammates.
Oh,
A video resurfaced, basically mocking him for announcing his transfer to LSU. Pardon my French, but they were heard saying, "Clear his shit out. He sucks anyways." Clearly, that is not the case. Since he left, Arizona State has gone 6-18. Meanwhile, Daniels and the LSU Tigers have gone 19-7. And I know sometimes win-loss records don't reflect that, but in this case, I think there is a big discrepancy, and it happened with one player. Of course, he won the Heisman last Saturday. Kind of was a favorite. There were rumblings of Michael Penix Jr. winning it, but he came home with it, and is probably going to be a first-round NFL draft pick in a loaded and quarterback class this year. But Jane Daniels, Arizona State teammates, definitely looking stupid.
You gotta
right now.
hold that. You just gotta hold that L right now. That's hilarious. I did see the video of him cleaning out his locker. I did chuckle a little bit. I think it's very funny. Obviously, aged like a fine milk, and was a really really bad take Really bad luck for them as well, but that's really funny, for sure. But my loser of the episode, Sam, I'm going to tell you what, I had a loser in my mind. I had it all day, all week, and it changed about a half hour ago because we got a big time announcement in the basketball world. Last night, we were recording on Wednesday. So on Tuesday night, the Suns and the Warriors were playing in a NBA game. And of course, stop me if you've heard this before. Draymond Green got ejected. If you watch the play, he and Yusuf Nurkic, they were rather lightly entangled. I get like no more so than is what is completely normal in a basketball game, let alone an NBA professional basketball game. They were vying for position in the post. They got a little bit tangled, like not even really that intertwined. And long story short, Draymond Green flings his arm around and lands a nasty hook right on Yusuf Nurkic's face, punches him in the face completely. Of course, he tries to throw his hands up and act like he was forced into it. We all saw that he wasn't, and we all knew some sort of discipline was coming again for Draymond Green. And we got an announcement today on Wednesday night that he has been suspended indefinitely by the league. They did not want to put a number of days on it because they really need to drive home the need for Draymond to fix his behavior, because this is getting to really problem territories. I mean, he's always been a fiery player. In his career, he's just been suspended 5 times, and including a game when he fought with Kevin Durant up 18. That eventually led Kevin Durant to leave the Warriors. He kicked LeBron in the balls up 3-1 in the 2016 NBA Finals. Of course, got ejected, then suspended. That spearheaded the Cavaliers' comeback. So one of the main reasons why the Warriors were not able to close that out. He also punched his own teammate in the face in practice in earlier this calendar year, in the about a month ago, when Draymond Green was suspended for 5 games because he put Rudy Gobert in a headlock for about 10 seconds. It doesn't matter how many times you suspend him. He doesn't learn. He doesn't stop hurting people, injuring people, hitting people, getting suspended, getting technicals. He's hit his season-long technical multiple times. It is unreal, and I hope that maybe this one will stick if they suspend him for an incredibly long time. Maybe he'll fix his behavior, but I'm just getting really sick and tired of it, because it's just not what basketball is. It's not what basketball should be. And the Warriors are obviously a dynasty basketball team. And now people are might look at that dynasty a little different if he continues to go down this path of ejections and punches and headlocks and technicals and all of this stuff. So I really hope he gets it figured out, and I really hope he doesn't get ejected from any more basketball games, does not get suspended anymore. But you got to be a big loser when you get suspended indefinitely, and suspended for I think this is now the 6th time in his career he's getting suspended. So not great.
Yeah, not great at all. We all expect it is gonna happen sooner or later. I'm pretty sure Shams tweeted that he has been sent to counseling, probably anger management class. And yeah, suspended indefinitely. Definitely wasn't expecting that, but definitely the right move by the NBA.
Definitely shout out Adam Silver in the league. I'm sure there was a lot of opposition internally for it that you can't. I mean, he's Draymond Green, right? He's a multi-time champ. He's a podcast. He's a name in the league. And shout out to them for doing what needed to be done, and at the very least, maybe getting him the help he needs to not do this anymore, for sure. But some kind of breaking news that just leaked a little bit earlier of this Draymond Green stuff. So definitely got to be a little bit of a loser, but hopefully he gets everything figured out. But you ready to talk about some ball?
Yeah, let's do it.
Of course. Now we do need to talk about the elephant in the room, the absolute tragedy that occurred on Saturday. Uh, the Army Navy game. If you're not following us on X, you missed an absolute great one. We were hanging out at a bar. We were watching the game, and my under uh, lost in spectacular fashion. Now I did push, so I got my original bet back. I didn't actually lose the bet, but it was spectacular fashion, man. With like 4 minutes left in the game, we were comfortably under a defensive touchdown, then a prevent defense, and then a errant safety as time expired. Really, really screwed me. So that was definitely tough. Thought about making myself or an all under betters a loser there because that's a really, really bad beat. But we move on. We move on. Army won that game pretty comfortably. And that pretty much puts a bow on all of regular season college football. So shame, but we'll talk about some NFL games right now. We'll start off, of course, we'll go in chronological order. We'll start off in the noon slate, noon central. Kind of a shocker here, Sam. The Lions go to Chicago and the Bears get the win 28-13.
Yeah, the Lions are definitely panic meter, fraud alert. They have been god awful these past couple weeks. This one taking the crown. Jared Goff looked terrible. He went 20 for 35, 160 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, got outplayed by Justin Jefferson. And I'm not Justin Jefferson, Justin Fields. I'm not used to hearing Justin Fields playing a good game, but the Lions have not played well. Barely beat the Saints the previous week, lost to Packers, barely beat the Bears, barely beat the Chargers. They are escaping with wins and then losing games they shouldn't. This one is just another piece to the pie. The Bears look good though. Justin Fields, finally, it seems he's coming into his own as a NFL quarterback. 19 for 33, 223, 1 touchdown. Carried the ball well, 12 carries, 58 yards, and another touchdown. Finding his guy DJ Moore. But I think this says more about the Lions because they were kind of the top dogs in the league for a long time and being held scoreless in the second half to the Chicago Bears, 5-8 Bears now. Definitely concerned in Detroit, and that division is wide open for anyone to take because it seems like the Lions do not want it.
No, no, they do not. That is a great point. I mean, 2 games, you're heavily favored divisional opponents in the Packers and the Bears, and you do in fact lose them both. I think you absolutely nailed the Lions right now. Man, that defense is looking every bit as it did a year ago. The unit that when we talked about, hey, this Lions team, man, they're red hot. They're really fun, but they need to fix that defense. They started out the year getting turnovers against the Chiefs. They won that game, right? We're having the conversation. Wow, this Lions team is for real. What changed? That defense is back. Or that defense is good. No. The defense is back to being terrible. They got holes everywhere. And yeah, Justin Fields, man. He's looking pretty good. I gotta say it. I mean, right now the Bears have won 3 of their last 4, including 2 straight. And the one they lost was that Lions game that you referenced before, where the Bears had a 2-possession lead in the fourth quarter. And that was kind of a special choke job to choke that one away. So Bears maybe turning some things around. I tell you what, Matt Eberflus, man, I think I said it after the Bears Vikings game. Terrible head coach. He can really coach defense. Their defense has completely 180'd. You get a guy like Montez Sweat on your team, he can do some really damn good things. Anyone who laughed at that trade looks really silly right now because he looks awesome. He's locked down long term. Oh, and this team is probably going to have the number 1 overall draft pick. So a lot to be excited about if you are a Chicago Bears fan. Now I got to ask the question, Sam. You're Ryan Poles, the GM of the Bears. The Panthers lose out. Justin Fields keeps going on this trajectory. They maybe, in their last game, and next week they play the Browns. They'll probably lose that. Then they'll play the Cardinals at home. Let's count that as a win. Then they play the Falcons at home. They might win that one too. Then they go to Lambeau to play the Packers. They'll probably lose that. So let's say they go 2-2 to end the year. That puts them at what does that put them? That puts them at 7-10 with the number one overall pick. Are you drafting the quarterback?
No, absolutely not. Justin Fields has turned the switch this season. We kind of talked about this a couple weeks ago. I know Eric, my brother, asked a question. I still am on the boat. You keep Justin Fields. Um, there is a ton of good receivers. I think you draft what you need, not the best available. I think Caleb Williams is going to be a bust. I haven't been, y'all know my feelings about him. And I don't think I'm using a pick on Drake May. But yeah, I think you get Fields another weapon, ease the double team off of DJ Moore, maybe get Marvin Harrison, Roma Dunze, Malik Neighbors from LSU. Those are three solid options. They're finalists for the college football receiver of the year. Can't remember the actual award name, but those three guys on that offense, adding another weapon to the dynamic quarterback that is Justin Fields. I like that. Maybe get him a running back. I don't know how the running back room is looking this draft class, but I know there's some very good wide receivers. So I'm not taking a quarterback if I'm the GM of the Bears. I just don't think it makes sense. If this was year 5 or 6 of Fields, I'd consider it. But he's still pretty young in his career. So that's kind of my thoughts on that.
Yeah, and I think as we both said, when we had that question, I agree, right? I mean, you still have another year, a year or two of Justin Fields, and then he becomes a unrestricted free agent. But I mean, from what he's shown, like the whole discourse on him is that the public thinks he sucks, that he's terrible, that you need to get. But then they're also like, when he becomes an unrestricted free agent, like you don't want to pay him. If he sucks, you don't have to pay him much. Like you can keep him for cheap if he sucks, like you say he does. Like they seem to contradict each other a lot, and a wide receiver to pair with DJ Moore, who looks awesome. I think if you're the Bears, the absolute best case scenario is if a team like the Patriots gets the second pick, a team that's definitely going to go quarterback,
Mm-hmm.
and if you decide you're not going quarterback, you can really market that pick, and some teams might go pretty heavy for that number one overall pick to jump the Patriots to get their quarterback. And, in some years where the number one overall pick, they know they're not taking quarterback. So that would be the best case scenario for the Bears. But as a fan of a divisional team, don't love the way things are trending for the Bears. And the Lions, you got to figure it out. You probably still win the North because the North is terrible. You left the door open for any team to catch you in the North, but you got to figure it out. Got to figure it out. But moving on, a kind of a big matchup in the AFC playoff picture. The Jaguars went to Cleveland to take on Joe Flacco and the Cleveland Browns, and the Browns get the win over the Jags 31-27.
Yeah, when looking at this game, one thing pops out at me, and that's the 4 turnovers by the Jags. We talk about it at length every episode. The Browns defense is one of the best in the league, might be the best. Absolutely dominant this game. 4 sacks, one fumble cause, 3 interceptions. Held the Jags to 7 for 17 on third down. Just looked absolutely dominant. Basically destroyed that run game of the Jaguars. Travis Etienne, we all know what he can do when he gets going, but he was miserable this game. This really came down to the defense putting Joe Flacco in that offense in positions where they can succeed.
Yeah, if you came up to me when we were starting, I remember the week 1 podcast We did that one over Zoom, I remember, and we were talking about, things for the season. If you would have came up to me that day and be like, hey, do you know in week 15, Joe Flacco is going to go up against Trevor Lawrence, and Joe Flacco is going to easily outplay Trevor Lawrence. Granted, of course, Trevor Lawrence did have that ankle injury. From the eye test, he looked pretty healthy. He looked like he was moving around pretty well. It wasn't really affecting him that much, but still got to take that into consideration. But Joe Flacco, simply put, completely outplayed him. 311 yards, 3 touchdowns. We mentioned the turnovers. Trevor Lawrence did throw for 3 touchdowns, 257 yards, 3 touchdowns, but did have 3 picks, only 1 for Flacco. I tell you what, if Flacco can just come out and sling that thing, as you talked about now, and we have talked about at length, that defense is championship level. So if he can go out and just do exactly what he did this past weekend, the Browns are going to be really scary, and they could do something, because you know what they say, defense does in fact win championships. But that pushes the Browns to 8-5 and the Jags to 8-5. Now the Jags will win their division, especially with the Texans losing to the Jets last week. But the Browns now climbing in that AFC wildcard race, even after losing Nick Chubb and Deshaun Watson. Pretty impressive stuff from the Browns.
Yeah, absolutely.
But moving on to the leader of that AFC North, who the Browns are trying to catch, the Baltimore Ravens. They are the number 1 seed in the AFC after beating the Rams in overtime, actually, 37-31, a walk-off punt return. Believe it or not, that's the second walk-off punt return of this NFL season. Kind of crazy how that works out, but Ravens get the win over the Rams.
Yeah, this one was shocking. The Rams obviously have struggled this year, not a great record, but Matthew Stafford looked great this game, 294, 3 touchdowns. Tough way to lose, walk off, punt return. This game was a lot more competitive than I think anybody would imagine. It seems the past couple weeks we're seeing this Ravens come back down to earth. We talked about how good their defense has been at the start of the year. It seems they're getting worn down and struggling. I mean, Matthew Stafford is not prime Matthew Stafford we saw when he first came to LA. But he still threw the ball for 282 yards. The Rams don't have a rushing attack, still rushed for 128. Definitely cause for concerns. But a win's a win, I guess.
Yeah. A win's a win. You nailed it, especially on a day when pretty much every other AFC contender lost, or people vying for the number 1 seed lost. That's definitely a lot more than others can say. I was definitely impressed with the effort that the Rams put forward. I mean, I think on the Rams side of things, your takeaway is that, that offense can still really operate at a high level. Sean McVay, his system, Stafford, Kyron Williams, the running back you mentioned, ran for 114. He looks like a guy, someone who's going to be really scary if you get the ball in his hands. Of course, that wide receiving duo of Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua going to be, good weapons for Matthew Stafford. But when you get rid of Jalen Ramsey, when you get rid of Von Miller, when you get rid of Leonard Floyd, when you get rid of all these guys, your defense is going to suffer. And yeah, giving up 37 here to the Ravens, not a great look for that defense and special teams because of the kick return. But that offense can still play. That offense can definitely still play. And on the Ravens side of things, offense looks great. Defense, as you said, not so much. Seems to be a theme here. A lot of these teams' defense is starting to not play as well as we had seen earlier in the year. But a win's a win, as you said, and the Ravens have a current handle on the number 1 seed in the AFC, which is pretty big. But moving on to the afternoon games. If you watch this, I am oh so sorry for you. But we had history. It was the lowest scoring game in the history of the NFL played indoors. The lowest scoring indoor played game, and that was between the Minnesota Vikings and the Las Vegas Raiders. The Vikings come out with the win, 3-0.
Yeah, this game sucked. No sugarcoating this one. Long live the Big Ten West. Because this was a perfect example of what we suffered through all year. Um, Josh Dobbs' is ass. Not a good quarterback. It was fun while it lasted. He played awful. Nick Mullins looked all right. For the what we saw. I mean, what we expected from a third string quarterback. Nothing special. But honestly, Tanner, my biggest takeaway is this Justin Jefferson injury.
Yes.
It seemed that I don't know, you obviously being a Vikings fan, but it seemed a little rush in his return. Um, got hurt again. But I'll just ugly game. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, we'll start with the injuries because that's definitely a major takeaway from this game. The Jefferson injury was not great. Simply put, it was a terrible throw by Dobbs, and Jefferson had to go up and get it, exposed his entire body, got absolutely leveled, and he actually had to go to the hospital. He went to the hospital from the game. Said it was a chest injury, which of course is some pretty scary stuff. But he was back in the locker room after the game, and from all indications is he intends to play this coming weekend. They actually play on Saturday. So that's good news. We also had Alexander Madison hurt his ankle. He didn't play the rest of the game.
It's not that big of a loss.
It's not that big of a loss. Trust me, no one dislikes the way Alexander Madison is playing this year. But of course, in this game, he had 10 carries for 66 yards. He was averaging over 6.5 yards a carry, and this is the one he gets hurt in, not the ones where he was averaging less than 3 yards a carry. But of course, anytime he gets any steam going, his ankle gives out. The offensive line is depleted. One of our starting guards couldn't start the game. We also had our all pro right tackle had to leave the game with an ankle injury. He didn't return. I haven't seen an update on him, but it was a very costly win. Not only did they look like absolute crap offensively, but they lost a lot of players on the offensive side of the ball. And yeah, it doesn't look great. And then with Jefferson going down, they had to put in, of course, one of their backup wide receivers. Jalen Naylor came in the game, and like his second snap, he left with a concussion. He got hit in the head. Of course, no flag, because why would there be? But then he leaves with a concussion. So very, very costly in terms of injuries. However, that's obviously not the reason why the offense struggled. Joshua Dobbs, thank you so much for your service. I will never forget the 3 weeks of Dobbs mania. It's over. It's over. I was hoping that maybe you would have found a place where you can stay longer than a few weeks. Doesn't look like that's going to be the case. After this year, you're not going to be with the Vikings. Sorry, buddy. It was fun while it lasted, but yeah, you're just not a good quarterback, and especially with Kevin O'Connell, the way he wants to play and the quarterback he wants you to be, it just doesn't fit. It's not a fit. I think it's fair to question the going out and getting the Dobbs signing, seeing how it, or trading for Dobbs, seeing how it everything unfolded. But when you take back and look at the games Dobbs has played in, he's played in 5 games, and the Vikings win 3-2 with a backup quarterback. That's about as good as you could have hoped for. And I'm not sure there's someone out there who would have gotten, played them to a record. It's better than that. So 3-2, we'll take it. But it's Nick Mullins' time. He looks so much better than Dobbs. He can actually throw on time, in rhythm, and in that case, when you have a quarterback who can play like that instead of Dobbs, who's all out of sorts and just wants to make plays with his legs, then you can allow the coach to maybe scheme a few things open and make things really easy for the quarterback. So going with Nick Mullins, definitely the right move. Injuries are very concerning, but of course, I got to talk about that defense. Brian Flores' defense is playing unreal right now. Absolutely dominant performance against the Raiders. Pitched a shutout, donut club. Didn't allow them to score. Got a key turnover, an interception on Aiden O'Connell in the right after Minnesota actually kicked the field goal on the ensuing possession when the Raiders were trying to make a comeback. Big interception from Ivan Pace Jr. So I cannot talk enough about this Vikings defense, the job Brian Flores has done with this Vikings defense. But it took a while, but essentially the Vikings are now Iowa football in that their defense plays well, they're on a backup quarterback, and their offense is just all sorts of disjointed.
Yeah.
It was an ugly game. I am so sorry if you had to watch it, especially because we had this game going on at the same time. This was the kind of the crown jewel. Maybe not actually. There was a better one that night, but certainly the crown jewel of the afternoon games. Let's say that the Bills going to Arrowhead taking on the Chiefs, the struggling Chiefs, might I add, because the Bills leave town with a 20-17 win.
Yeah, this game was fun. I can talk about this play, that play, but it really came down to the play everyone is talking about with about minute 50, just under 2 minutes. Patrick Mahomes connects to his number one guy, Travis Kelce, and Kelce catches the ball, sees Kadarius Toney on the other side, launches it to him. Perfect spiral. Props to Travis Kelce for that. But throws it, goes in the end zone, touchdown. So we thought, gets called back. And it's not a touchdown. Kadarius Toney screws up once again in a Chiefs uniform. He was so far offside. It looked like he was playing defense. But then everything after the game ensues, and that's kind of what I want to talk about. Patrick Mahomes is an asshole. Pardon my French, but going up to the opposing quarterback, basically saying that's bullshit. They shouldn't have called that. Weird, first off, and why? Like, what does that do? And then obviously Patrick Mahomes, presser after a game going, you just can't call that. Just no one, and Andy Reid basically said the same thing. They took away one of the greatest plays in history. Okay, so down. But notice how no one said it was a bad call, because it was the props to the ref. We don't give him credit. We bash him when it's awful. Gotta give him props when, but really a blind ref could have called that. But yeah, that was kind of the biggest takeaway from this game, but big win for the Bills. Kind of have been up and down all year, but a big win against the Chiefs, kind of a rivalry the past couple years, getting a big one over them. That's huge.
Yeah, definitely agree with everything you just said. I mean, it was so strange because after years of watching Patrick Mahomes play really important football games, ones that, I mean, we all know as NFL fans, if it's an important football game, the refs probably have their hands all over it.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen the refs make critical calls multiple times in Patrick Mahomes and Chiefs games, and he's never once said anything. Now, of course, he does play for the Chiefs. We've talked about on here how the Chiefs have gotten the benefit of the doubt on a lot of calls. Obviously, absolutely hilarious to say, let him play, coming off of the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
I remember talking about it on this podcast saying, like, I hate when people say let him play. A penalty is a penalty. And I was on his side then. And to come and say it on this play is utterly ridiculous, simply put. I love, when Mahomes was talking, he was like, what a great play. And you hate to see that a great play from a Hall of Fame player is.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Okay. I understand, like, if that was a pass interference, where when you call pass interference, the play has concluded. You see the play, and then the ref throws the flag. That was a pre-snap penalty.
Uh-huh.
When the ball was snapped, the flag was out. he was going to call that whether Mahomes was sacked, whether he fumbled, whether he threw a pick, or whether that was an awesome play. You're acting like he knew the play was coming and wanted to call it back.
Yeah.
On the field before Kelsey even thought about
Yeah.
lateraling that football. Like what? I can't believe that is something that came out of the best quarterback to ever do its mouth. As you said, there's not a single argument of it was the wrong call. Everyone's saying you can't call that. I've seen some. He did check with the ref. If you watch the video, he pointed at the ref, but his head was facing the exact opposite way.
Smart.
Almost like a courtesy, where that's what you point and check with the ref and make sure. But it almost became muscle memory. So like you don't even look, you just point out to him, and that's what he did. He pointed out, was looking the other way. So even if the ref wanted to say something, what said, but like went like this with his hand or like told him to move back, he wouldn't have seen it. He was looking the other way. Also, he was in a bunch. He was just off the offensive line. You think the ref's gonna be like, "Hey, no, like no?" They tell him when they're the closest to the sideline. If they're out wide, they'll be like, "Hey, 83, move back a little bit." They don't tell you when you are all the way on the other side of the field in a bunch formation next to the lineman.
Yeah.
It makes no sense, and it really frustrates me because Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, one of the best quarterback coach duos to ever do it. Obviously, they're two-time Super Bowl champions, and I just cannot believe, I still can't believe that is the way that they handled this situation. Of course, Mahomes has since apologized, which obviously he was clearly in the wrong, and he definitely deserves some credit for doing that. But my God, like I don't know, like everyone say, "Oh, I lost some respect for Mahomes." I think I might. I don't know, but I was just really appalled after the way things went down, that they would make it all about the refs on a 100% correct call. All referee colleagues, all referee people on TV, Roger Goodell. Like obviously they're gonna back up the refs, but the people on TV, they go against the refs all the time. They're like, that's a terrible call.
Yeah.
They all backed up the call without a shred of a doubt. So unbelievable from Chiefs fans, and Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. But yeah, it gets me fired up talking about it just because how fortunate the Chiefs have been with the refs and literally just how last year ended with the whole let them stuff is ridiculous. But moving on. Because the actual later that night, the Cowboys and the Eagles battle for supremacy in the NFC East. The Eagles were 10-3. The Cowboys were 9-3. Excuse me. The Eagles were 10-2. The Cowboys were 9-3. Cowboys take care of business at home. Beat them by 20, 33-13.
The question surrounding the Cowboys is, can they beat a good team? That's what it's been. It's them and the Dolphins. Can they beat good teams? The Dolphins can't beat bad teams. We'll talk about that later. The Cowboys finally got a statement win in a statement fashion. Absolutely kicked the crap out of the Eagles. It was 24-6 at halftime. Dak Prescott, call me biased, you can. He's playing some of the best football, should be in the MVP race. Another great performance by him, 271, 2 touchdowns, 24 for 39. But I kind of want to talk about how bad the Eagles played. Jalen Hurts, 18-27, 197 yards, 0 touchdowns. DeAndre Swift, one of their biggest playmakers this year, 11 carries, 39 yards, 3.5 yards, 0 touchdowns. Jalen Hurts, 5 rushes, 30 yards, 0 touchdowns. A.J. Brown, 9 receptions, 94 yards, okay, 0 touchdowns. Devontae Smith, 5 receptions, 73 yards, 0 touchdowns. It was awesome to see. I really don't like the Eagles. And seeing the Cowboys, their defense really stepped up big in this one. I mean, we talk about, look at the stats. It kind of tells the story, to be honest with you, Tanner. But also, guys, shout out. It's amazing what happens when you get your playmakers the ball. CeeDee Lamb looked as awesome as ever. Michael Gallup even got in the mix. Tony Pollard had a hell of a game, over 100 yards, just looking awesome there with the rushing and getting involved in that passing game. But yeah, just an absolute dominant performance. It's amazing what this team can do when all sides of the ball are clicking together.
So, a couple things. First off, you were saying about Dak Prescott being in the MVP race. He should be the favorite in the MVP race right now. Unbelievable football. Gotta own it. When he said he was throwing less than 10 picks this year, we all laughed. We all made fun of him. He's going to. He's going to throw less than 10 because he is playing, as we said, incredible football. A couple things that I also want to highlight. You mentioned getting the ball to CeeDee Lamb. Week 6 against the Chargers. That CeeDee went for 7 for 117. From week 6 on, CeeDee has gone for 117, 158, 191, 151 in 4 straight. Then 38, 53, then 116 and 71. So in those 8 games where he is getting the ball a lot. And mind you, that week 6 cutoff that I drew, the 3 weeks before that, he had 49, 36, 50. So not a lot of touches.
Mm-hmm.
In the end, so in that week 6, so through the first 5 weeks, the Cowboys were 3-2. They were 3-2, and they were coming off of an absolute shellacking. Started getting CeeDee the ball, and they started 3-2. Now they're 10. They are 7-1 when they started getting CeeDee Lamb the football, and their one loss was at Philly by 1 possession.
Yeah,
it's a simple formula,
mm-hmm.
and Dak Prescott obviously looks awesome. This has something to do with it. And Philly, as you said, looks terrible. This whole time we're talking about their defense stinks. Their secondary is a problem. It absolutely is. The offense. We read the stats. A lot of their playmakers. Most important one.
None.
0 offensive touchdowns in the game against Dallas. There was a scoop and score by the Eagles defense that was their only touchdown. So they got some stuff to figure out. It's almost like losing both your coordinators to head coaching jobs really takes a toll.
Yeah, just maybe.
On the 2 sides of the ball. And still, through all of that, they're obviously 10-3, but losers of 2 straight. Big opportunity for a bounce back going to Seattle next week. Anytime you go to Seattle, it's going to be a tough match. 12. The game by game this episode Monday night, because in week 15 you gotta throw out the double Monday night, don't you?
Of course.
I mean, why would you week 1? No. Week 15, or is it 14? 14 or 15? I'm saying 15 this whole time. Might be 14. Okay, every time I said 15 earlier, it's 14, I think. But you got to bring it out in week 14, man. That's when people come to see the double Monday night. Neither game disappointed. Talked about the Giants and Packers a little bit earlier. Tommy DeVito going on that game-winning drive to beat the Pack. But somehow, some way, the Tennessee Titans go into Miami, beat the Dolphins 28-27.
Yeah, you talk about some way, somehow. I think it'd be a mistake not to highlight the injury that was Tyreek Hill. He was out for most I'm pretty sure he went down in the first, if I'm not mistaken. kind of was in and out, was basically non-existent. Kind of the second half of the game, only had 4 receptions for 61 yards. So that definitely affects the game. But you're still the Dolphins. You're still a good team. You still have your quarterback. You still have Mostert and a Cheney. You should win this game, especially when you have Jalen Waddle, who is one of the best two guys in the league, especially when you're playing the Titans. But gotta shout out Will Levis, Mr. Mayo himself. 23 for 38, 327 yards, had a touchdown and a pick, but did not end up costing him. Speaking of getting the ball to your playmakers, DeAndre Hopkins, still that dude, 7 receptions, 124 yards, 1 touchdown. It's amazing what happens when you get to your number one receiver. He looked like his prime self this game, looked awesome. Will Levis got him the ball and really was a huge factor to why he led the Titans to this victory. And of course, it'd be a mistake not to mention the impact of Derrick Henry. You look at his yards, 17 carries, 34 yards, 2 touchdowns. Doesn't sound great, but he affected the game as he always does. But huge win from the Titans. Yes, you had the Tyreek Hill injury, but this is definitely a cause for concern for the Dolphins. You mentioned them being on your fraud alert, and I think it just took another level up.
Yeah, I mean, I think they might be taking off fraud alert because they might be given fraud
just
waivers.
frauds,
They might
yeah.
just be frauds. Especially, everything you said, absolutely correct. Especially when you look at the way in which this happened. It was a tie game, Sam. It was 13 all with like 6 minutes left in the game. A muffed punt by Tennessee led to a touchdown by Miami. Then the very next possession, of course, this game in Miami, the crowd's into it. They try a pitch play to Derrick Henry. He drops it. And the Titans recover, or excuse me, the Dolphins recover, and they go and score a touchdown.
Yeah.
So just like that, it's a 14-point game with like 4 minutes left. And the Titans somehow win. They march down the field. The Levis man goes to the other side. Shout out Stuart Scott. Leads them right down the field. Scores a touchdown. And Mike Vrabel going with the analytics play. I'm a big proponent of this. Down 14, go for 2. Go for 2 when you're down 14 and you score a touchdown. Packers won a game over the Saints in week 2 from doing this. Matt LaFleur did it, and now Mike Vrabel does it. And they go for 2, and they get it. Now only down 6. Give the ball back to the Dolphins. They go 3 and out. Plenty of time, still like north of 2 minutes for the Titans. They get the ball back, and obviously they go right down the field and score a touchdown as well. So absolute choke. Not only are you losing to a team worse than you, but choking a 14-point lead in like 4 minutes, 6 minutes, whatever it was. Not a good look.
Yeah. Yes, Tyreek Hill was banged up, but in that situation, you got to roll with him. He is on the sideline. He was on the field. Just did not look his way.
Yeah, so I'm saying, like, Tyreek Hill was out, and I know you were saying it should not be difference between them losing this game. They were up 14 with 4 minutes left with Tyreek Hill out.
Yeah.
With the injury. Like, 4 minutes, close the game and do it. So definitely big time disappointing if you are a Dolphins fan. And with the Bills win over the Chiefs we talked about earlier, that door left open. Dolphins, the rest of their schedule, they have the Jets next week, so win. But then Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson.
And crunch time. But they got to play the Cowboys, the Ravens, and the Bills in 3 of their last 4 games.
Yeah, that's not great. It's not a great slate.
Not great. Bills, if they win out, chance is still there. Let's see their schedule really quick. The Bills, have they gotten over their gauntlets?
They have their Cowboys this week.
This week again. Then Chargers without Justin Herbert, Patriots,
Pieces.
and then they close out the Dolphins. So
It's not a bad slate.
I would give the schedule advantage.
Look, I don't know, man. Mac Jones and on the way out, Belichick. Come on now.
So things to get really interesting in the AFC. Game analysis of the NFL. Excuse me, of the NFL weekend. This upcoming weekend, we got games on Saturday now, so be aware. Don't be caught off guard. We got games on Saturday, so your Saturday football fix will still be met. Of course, it will be by NFL and college, which is a little sad, but we will make do with.
Nah, it's big sad. It's big sad.
It's not sad. It's big sad. Not in the morning by Pat
and ripping off his shirt.
Going
and Theo Vaughn and Lee Corso. Let's do it.
Games here scheduled with Sam. Before we go into those, you got to update us on last.
Yeah, absolutely, Tanner. It was kind of a rough week. I'm not gonna lie to you, Tanner. Rough week. We both got Army. Colts, Bengals. You got the Bengals. Broncos, Chargers. Unfortunately, Justin Herbert went down, gave the Broncos a win. Browns. We both got that one. We both were on the Chiefs, so maybe we needed that call. You went with the Eagles. I went with the Cowboys. Our weekly total, I had 4. You had 3. That is brutal. Probably one of our worst weeks, if I'm not. Yeah, this is true. Yep, and our season total, it's looking more and more as the season winds down that I will be doing punishment. We haven't confirmed what we're doing quite yet, but you are up 77 to 68. So close the gap a little bit, but it's not looking good for me coming down the stretch. What? Yep.
Saturday, the Nick Mullins led Vikings go to Cincinnati to take on the Jake Browning led Bengals. This is what everyone had.
Of course.
Bengals favored by 3. Who wins?
I like the Bengals here. I just trust Jake Browning more, and he has a little more weapons in his arsenal. So give me the Bengals with Jake Browning at the helm.
Yeah, I mean, you look at this game, 2 backup quarterbacks. One team's coming off of a 3-0 win, which their offense looked anemic. One's coming off of a 34-14 win over the Colts, and then before that, beating the Jaguars on the road. You take away the quarterbacks, you look at the quality of team. The Bengals are a much better team than the Minnesota Vikings, all across the board. So I'm going to go with the Bengals. They're better, and their quarterback is better, and I think they will win comfortably. I would also take Bengals -3.
Maybe we get Mullins mania for next couple weeks.
That would be awesome. I'd love to eat crow.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm taking the Bengals -3 responsibly, of course, but I'm taking the Bengals -3. Yeah, I think the Bengals win easily. No faith from me, and no faith from Sam either. So let's go. But moving on, we've got an AFC matchup. I didn't personally think that this would have any playoff implications, but sure enough, it does. We have the really big time struggling Steelers losing to the Patriots this past week on Thursday night. They go to Indy to take on the Colts, fresh off of a kind of a shellacking at the hands of the Bengals. Another game, 2 backup quarterbacks.
Let's go.
Trubisky versus Gardner Minshew. Who wins this one?
Yeah, I'm going with the guy I trust more. Give me Gardner Minshew mania. The Steelers have looked awful with Kenny Pickett and without. And then their leader on the defense, TJ Watt, he just got out of concussion protocol like an hour ago of recording. So definitely concerned there. But give me Gardner Minshew. I really, really don't trust Mitch Trubisky.
I hate it when we agree, but I there's no chance I'm taking Mitch Trubisky and the Steelers right after losing to the Patriots. You talk about JJ Watt getting out of well, not JJ, TJ
TJ.
Watt getting out of
I got you.
concussion protocol. This is a Steelers defense that gave up how many points was it to? I mean, the over under in that game was like 28, and the over cashed in like the second quarter
Mhm.
because of how poorly that Steelers defense played, especially when playing against Bailey Zappi and the Patriots offense. Yeah, I'm not trusting the Steelers. Give me the Colts. Minshew Mania will be back at home, of course. Will the roof be open? Who knows? Only Jim Irsay knows. But yeah, give me the Colts in this one. But next, we'll be moving on. So we got a backup quarterback in the Vikings Bengals. We got another backup quarterback matchup in Steelers Colts. How about a rookie quarterback matchup? CJ Stroud and the Texans go to Nashville, take on Will Levis and the Titans. Who you got in this one, Sam?
Yes, I mean we all saw what CJ Stroud happened to CJ Stroud last week, went out with a concussion. I don't believe he's been released from concussion protocol. I could be wrong in that. But with that being said, I really liked what I saw from Will Levis and the Titans against the Dolphins. And so that's why I'm going with. I'm going with my heart on this one. Give me the Titans.
Yeah, this is tough, right? Obviously, the injury to CJ Stroud, a big time concern. Uh, but you know what? CJ Stroud's going to play in this game. CJ Stroud's going to play in this game, and it is going to be the most Titans loss ever coming off of that huge, big time win over the Dolphins. Things are looking up. Maybe it sparked your season. Not when the Texans come to town. I know they're missing some wide receivers as well. It'll be a depleted Texans team. But again, right now I'm just not trusting the Titans. And I got the Texans coming into town and getting a big time win. D'Amico Ryans versus Mike Vrabel, one of the better head coaching matchups in the NFL right now. But give me D'Amico Ryans, man. Give me the Texans to beat the Titans on the road. And really strengthen that playoff push for the Texans. Our next game, America's Game of the Week, I believe. The Bills at home welcome the Cowboys into town. Bills 2-point favorites, Sam. Who you got in this one?
Yeah, talk about the game of hangovers. Cowboys obviously coming off that big win over the Eagles. The Bills coming off that big win over the Chiefs. I think we're going to get what we've seen from Josh Allen all year. I think he's going to make plays he shouldn't. Cowboys are going to capitalize on those turnovers. Give me the Cowboys in a close one in Buffalo.
I'm so excited for this game.
Yeah.
Also, just personally, I've been struggling with this decision all year long because my two fantasy quarterbacks are Dak Prescott and Josh Allen. Now, obviously, preseason, Josh Allen will be the clear start. However, throughout the course of the season, obviously trending in different directions. So I still don't know who I'm going to start quarterback wise. But you know what? I'm going to go with the home team here. Give me the Bills. I think that win over the Chiefs will spark something in them, and they realize, hey, not only can we still make the playoffs, you can still win your division if things go right. If you win out, you can win that division. I think that's the conversation going on inside the Bills locker room. Not some other stuff talked about in the Bills locker room. If you know, you know. But yeah, give me the Bills in this game at home, outside in the cold. Obviously, the Cowboys, an indoor team. I think maybe the elements, the crowd, that maybe will slow down the. Be one of the reasons why this Cowboys offense is slow down a little bit. So give me the Bills at home there, and then I believe this is the Sunday night game. The Ravens go to Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence, we know he played this past week, so it looks like he will be good to go with that ankle injury. The Ravens are 3.5-point favorites coming off of that walk-off kick return win over the Rams. Who do you have in this
I think last week for the Ravens with a walk-off punt return was kind of a wake-up call that they needed. Trevor Lawrence didn't look 100% last week. I still don't think. I think that high ankle sprain or ankle sprain, whatever you want to call it, is a little more serious than we thought. I like the Ravens here. Give me the Ravens heading into Jacksonville coming out with a win.
Yeah, also lost in all of this. Yes, they had that game against Cincinnati, had the Trevor Lawrence injury, but also the Christian Kirk injury. Right, the very first play of the game, 26-yard reception, goes down with a groin injury. He hasn't come back, and that offense looks completely different. So I'm also going to go with the Ravens here. I think they get a big road win for all the reasons that you said. They're just simply put, the Jags aren't healthy, and they're not playing great football right now. But to wrap it up, I believe this is the Monday night game. The Eagles, fresh off of losing 2 straight, have to go to Seattle, face the Seahawks and the 12th man. Who's winning this game?
Yeah, this one is huge for the Eagles coming into this week. Lost the 1 seed last week with the loss to the Cowboys. Haven't looked great the past couple weeks. Seattle is probably one of the toughest games to go environments to go into. You mentioned the 12th man earlier. I still think this is a perfect opportunity for the Eagles to get right. I think they do it here in Seattle. Give me the Eagles.
Not so fast, my friend. I think it's 3 straight for the Eagles here. Look, things haven't gone great for the Seahawks recently. And however, no matter who's playing quarterback, whether it's Drew Lock or it is whether it's Geno Smith, prime time at home, it is really difficult to beat these Seahawks. And I'm not sure the Eagles are in a spot right now to do that. They're not scoring offensive touchdowns in big games. Their defense is getting shredded week after week after week. I mean, this is a Seahawks team that played the Cowboys team that just absolutely shredded the Eagles in Dallas. They went toe to toe with the Cowboys. Of course, the Cowboys ended up winning that game. Lost by 6. Of course, the NFL, no emotional victories, yada, yada, yada. Or no emotional victories here, but they look pretty good in that game, man. And I think that's a good measuring stick game against the Cowboys in Dallas. Give me the Seahawks at home. That 12th man, gonna be loud. Upset City, and the Eagles lose 3 straight. That's gonna wrap up our pick'em segment. We only got a few more weeks of these, man. It kind of stinks. 4 weeks left in the NFL season, so we'll make them count. Last 4 weeks. To wrap up the episode, we have a few questions. First question from Carol Godsey, of course, the maker and designer of our merch. Sam is wearing the sweatshirt. I've got the hat on. You can find the links to all that stuff, all of our social media, YouTube, description below. So go check it out, and huge shout out to Carol for helping us with that. But she wants to know your favorite sports video game now and growing up.
Yeah, this one is a fun question. I am a huge sports video game player. Funny story that it really comes down to 3 games now. I think the big ones being MLB The Show, Madden, and NBA 2K. For me, by far, NBA 2K24. Madden was up there, but it's a bunch of BS. I actually deleted the game last week because it made me so mad. But so 2K24 by far my favorite game right now. But growing up, it comes down to 2 for me. One being the first NCAA football I ever played, 07 with Reggie, or 05, excuse me. No, 07
07
with Reggie Bush on the cover. Kind of started my fandom of sports video games. And then I hope they bring this back as well. We got news that NCAA football is coming back this summer, but I hope this shortly follows. And that is March Madness 2010. By far the best basketball game ever made. They had CBS, they had ESPN, the commentators associated with it. Obviously, March Madness. Blake Griffin was on the cover, one of my favorite sports video games of all time. But those two are definitely my go-tos when I was growing up as a kid.
You suck so bad. Because I had two games I played
Nice.
religiously growing up. It was either Tug of War on NCAA Football 07 or NCAA Basketball 2010. We'll start off right now. My favorite video game franchise is MLB The Show. I think it's just the one that I've grown to like the most as I get older. I played it pretty religiously from like 18 through 22. I've kind of stopped a little bit recently, but MLB The Show is my favorite right now. But those two growing up, absolutely. I'd say between those two, I'd give the edge to NCAA Basketball 10. I mean, it was so innovative. Like when you're loading the game and you can just go out and shoot hoops.
Yeah.
Like I thought that was so awesome. I would sometimes forget I was playing a game and I would just be shooting hoops for like 15 minutes and be like, "Oh crap, press X to play game." Okay.
Uh-huh.
I forgot to actually play the game.
Yeah.
And then I would all the time I would just pick random teams and I'd start a game, shoot around, then I'd start it and I'd just see what scoreboard it is and then quit. Just because I love seeing the and then
It's electric.
and then when the game would load, then you just hear boom 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 dun, with the CBS stuff. Oh my gosh, bring me back there. It was absolutely awesome. So NCAA Basketball 10 for me is my favorite. Just to throw out another one that hasn't been talked about earlier. I also obviously was a big baseball video game fan. The Bigs, I think, was my favorite baseball game growing up. So that's to throw one out. That's a little different, but there's a special place in my heart for NCAA Basketball 2010. That is for certain.
Yeah.
Absolutely everything. Gus Johnson is the announcer for CBS in that game. So
Yeah.
shout out Gussie boy. But the next question comes from Blake Baumgartner. Blake Baumgartner. He wants to know, is Jordan Love on the rise to becoming the next great Packers quarterback, or is he just an average NFL quarterback?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I'm excited to hear what you say, but I think he's somewhere in the middle right now. I think he is not an average quarterback. I think he is a good quarterback. Led them to a close one. Has been consistently good all season, even without his biggest playmakers on the offensive end. But to say he's the next great Packers quarterback, I think it's too early to tell. I mean, you're putting him up with obviously first two that come to my mind is Favre and Rodgers. I don't think he's there yet. But I think he's better than an average NFL quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen flashes, right? And I just don't think right now, again, like you said, I just don't think they're consistent enough to crown him the next great quarterback, as you said. But yeah, I'm definitely afraid he's going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm definitely afraid he's going to be pretty good. He has shown some pretty impressive stuff. And of course, the fact that he's got a little mobility to him, he can use his legs. And I mean, year after year. Also, keep in mind, he's throwing to some pretty bad wide receivers. Granted, over Aaron Rodgers' tenure, he pretty much threw to bad wide receivers,
Facts.
especially in the latter half of his career. Other than Devontae Adams, of course. But if you took him out of the game, wide receiving course were terrible. But Green Bay, maybe if they can get some wide receivers for Jordan Love, maybe things a little different. Things turn out a little different. He can jump into that great tier. I'm trying to think of like a comp of the quality of career. I'm thinking based on what I've seen. The best I'm coming up with right now is I think maybe like one step down from like Phillip Rivers.
Yeah.
But Phillips weird, obviously, because he never won the Super Bowl. I don't know. Jordan Love might win a Super Bowl. I mean,
Yeah.
but it's also the Packers who have only won 2 with like great quarterbacks. So
Yeah.
maybe if he's not great, will he win? I don't know. There's a lot of speculation here, a lot of tough calls. But I think I'm going to agree. Just like somewhere in the middle, I think he's going to be better than average. I think he's going to be he's certainly, I think we've seen enough to crown him a franchise quarterback.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that's a great way to
a
put it.
great quarterback. I don't know, but certainly better than average. So, and then lastly, from my mom, Carrie Dislin, she wants to know, you score a touchdown, Sam. What's your celebration? You doing it alone? You bringing the team in? You getting some choreography, or is it going to be improvised? What are you doing once you get in the end zone?
You know, when I first read this question, I was like just thinking about it. Even when we're throwing the ball outside, I do this celebration. So this is gonna be my answer. It's gonna be the Ickey Woods shuffle. Obviously, he was in the league a long time ago, way before I started watching, but obviously got revived with the get some cold cuts commercial. So I'm gonna have to go with the Icky Shuffle, man. It is absolutely electric, super simple. I'd love to get some teammates in on it, but definitely the Icky Shuffle.
Yeah, that's great. When I first saw this as well, I thought of, what would I do if it were solo? And the first thing that came to mind is a shout out to my boy Randy Moss when he shot the moon to the Packers crowd. I think that one might come with a penalty, maybe some fines in there. So I think maybe I would stay away from shooting the moon like Randy Moss did. And great reaction by Joe Buck, by the way. What a disgusting act by Randy Moss. Okay, guy. But I think for me, my favorite ones are always the ones where the teams are involved.
Yeah.
Got to be the court. It's funny you use the word choreographed in the question, because the very first thing that comes to my mind and my favorite celebrations are the Seahawks when they did the boy band like dance.
Yeah.
They're all in sync and choreographed. In sync, pun intended. But that's something I would do. I would get the whole group involved. Specifically though, because like you have the Duck Duck Goose that was really good.
Mm-hmm.
You have the limbo. I remember the Vikings did the limbo one year. The Vikings did a keg stand actually last week.
Yeah. I was wondering who that was.
Yep.
It was the Vikings.
Yep, they did a keg stand last week.
That was good.
That's pretty good. And then of course you got the Seahawks with their the choreographed dance. I always love when the Cowboys guy jumps in
the Salvation Army.
Yeah, the Salvation Army.
Yep.
Always love that. I've seen some turkey dinners.
Yeah.
Ocho Cinco, of course, was the original king. Do it like putting the ball
Oh,
with
yeah.
the pylon.
Was he the one that like pulled out a phone to celebrate?
That was actually Joe Horn with the Saints.
Yeah.
He like pulled out a phone out of his sock or something and like. Oh
Yeah.
No.
Who was that?
No. I think Joe Horn actually pulled out of a Sharpie and signed the ball. Maybe that's what he did. What did Joe Horn do? It was one of the two. I can't remember which one it was. Joe Horn's celebration. Okay, no, his was the phone.
Okay.
Joe Horn was
Joe
the
Horn.
phone. Ocho Cinco might have been the sign the ball.
Ocho Cinco, that man celebrated like no other.
Yeah, he certainly did. But I think for me, man, it's gonna be inspired by that Seahawks celebration, something boy bandy, choreographed where we all dance and get it down to the T, which was pretty cool. So that's what I'm going with for my Sully, and of course Sam. Get some cold cuts. It's
electric. It's electric.
Some really funny stuff. Thanks for that.
That's
question.
good. That's a good one. Good one. Absolutely.
So 113.
Nice.
Crunch time. Congrats. You have made it to the end of the episode. You got to check out the YouTube so you can see Sam doing the shuffle live as he goes up the episode. Great stuff. Always check out the YouTube. Definitely my preferred way to consume podcasts. But you can follow the podcast on X, Instagram, TikTok at crunchtime_pod. You can follow the podcast on YouTube. Subscribe to us there. Crunch Time with the N326 duo. But the clock has run out on this episode, and we'll see you in the next one on
See ya.